I need you to step out of the vehicle.
Officer, I can't. I'm paralyzed from the waist down.
You have something that shows that?
My medical bracelet. My wheelchair's in the back.
I've had people lie about that before.
Then please call a supervisor. I need assistance.
All right, sit tight.
Officer Brooks had no idea what he just walked into. Sharon Davis wasn't faking anything. She'd been paralyzed since a devastating car accident, with complete loss of motor function below the waist confirmed by years of medical documentation. Brooks' body cam would capture every second of what happened next, and the footage would be seen by over 10 million people within a single day. What started as a routine stop was about to become one of the most expensive mistakes in the department's history. Mistake or pattern? Comment below. Sharon Davis was 38 years old. She lived in Phoenix. She worked remotely as a medical billing specialist, and she had been paralyzed from the waist down for 5 years. It happened in a car accident. Another driver ran a red light and T-boned her sedan on the passenger side. The impact crushed 3 vertebrae in her lower spine. Surgeons did what they could, but the damage was permanent. She would never walk again. Sharon spent months in physical therapy. She learned how to navigate the world from a wheelchair. She modified her home. She got a specially equipped van with hand controls so she could drive independently. She registered with the State Disability Board. She carried a medical alert bracelet. She had a disabled parking placard. Everything was documented. Everything was legitimate. There was never any question about her condition from any doctor, therapist, or state agency. Sharon didn't let her disability define her. She worked full-time. She volunteered at a community center. She lived alone and managed her daily routines without help. She was proud of her independence, and she was careful. She followed traffic laws. She kept her vehicle registration current. She avoided confrontation. On that afternoon in Phoenix, Sharon was driving home from a grocery run. She had done nothing wrong. But she was about to become the victim of something she couldn't have prepared for. An officer who didn't believe her. An officer who thought he knew better than her doctors. An officer who was about to make a decision that would change both of their lives forever. Officer Daniel Brooks had been with the Phoenix Police Department for 6 years. He worked patrol in a busy district. He had hundreds of traffic stops under his belt, and he had a reputation. Some of his colleagues called him thorough, others called him aggressive. Brooks saw himself as someone who didn't get fooled. He prided himself on spotting liars and cheaters, people who abused handicapped parking, people who faked injuries for insurance, people who played the system. He'd seen it before, or so he thought. But Brooks had a problem. His training on disability awareness was minimal. The department had offered a short seminar years earlier. Brooks attended but didn't take it seriously. He figured common sense would do the job, and he had complaints in his file. 2 prior incidents involving excessive force. One was a suspect who claimed Brooks used unnecessary aggression during an arrest. Another was a motorist who said Brooks escalated a routine stop into a physical confrontation. Both complaints were filed, both were reviewed, but neither was properly investigated. Brooks received no discipline, no additional training, no warning that his behavior was becoming a pattern. His supervisors had missed the signs or ignored them. Either way, Brooks was still on the street, still making stops, still trusting his gut over evidence. And on that day in Phoenix, his gut was about to fail him. He was about to ignore medical documentation, ignore witness testimony, ignore a woman's desperate pleas, because he thought he knew better. He thought he could spot a faker, and he was wrong. It was mid-afternoon. Sharon was driving her modified van through a residential area in Phoenix. Traffic was light. She approached an intersection with a stop sign. Sharon would later say she came to a complete stop. Officer Brooks would claim she rolled through it. Either way, Brooks hit his lights. Sharon saw them in her mirror. She took a breath. She signaled. She pulled over safely to the curb. She put the van in park. She placed her hands on the steering wheel where Brooks could see them. She had her license and registration ready before he even reached her window. Brooks approached on the driver's side. He looked through the window. He saw the hand controls mounted on the steering column. He saw the disabled placard hanging from the rearview mirror. He made a note of both. Sharon rolled down her window. She greeted him politely. She handed over her documents without being asked. Brooks glanced at the license. He looked at Sharon. Then he looked back at the hand controls. "Why do you have these if you can walk fine?" Sharon kept her voice calm. She had explained this before, to clerks, to strangers, to people who thought disabilities had to look a certain way. "Officer, I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I've been in a wheelchair for 5 years. I can't use my legs. The hand controls let me drive independently." Brooks didn't respond right away. He studied her face. He looked at her legs. Sharon was sitting upright in the driver's seat. Her legs were positioned normally. To someone who didn't understand paralysis, she might have looked fine. Brooks made an assumption, a dangerous one. "I've seen people fake disabilities before, for parking spots, for benefits. It happens all the time." Sharon felt her stomach drop. She had never been accused of faking her condition, not once in 5 years. She reached for her wrist. "Sir, I have a medical alert bracelet right here, and my disabled parking permit. Everything is registered with the state." Brooks glanced at the bracelet. He shook his head. "Those are easy to fake. Anyone can get a permit if they know the right doctor." Sharon's hands were shaking now. She kept her voice steady. "Officer, I'm not faking anything. I have medical records. I can provide contact information for my doctors. I'm happy to cooperate, but I need you to understand that I physically cannot use my legs." Brooks crossed his arms. He wasn't buying it, and he was running out of patience. Brooks stepped back from the window. He told Sharon he needed her to step out of the vehicle. Sharon felt panic rise in her chest. This was the one thing she couldn't do, not without help, not without her wheelchair. "Officer, I can't step out. I'm paralyzed. I would need my wheelchair from the back of the van. I can't walk." Brooks didn't move. He repeated the command. "Step out of the vehicle, now." Sharon tried again. She kept her tone respectful. She explained her condition a second time. She asked Brooks to call a supervisor. She asked him to verify her medical status with the state database. She offered to show him the wheelchair, anything to make him understand. Brooks wasn't listening. He accused her of being difficult, of stalling, of refusing a lawful order. "You're being uncooperative. If you don't step out right now, I'm going to arrest you for obstruction." Sharon was crying now, not from anger, from fear. She had done everything right. She had her documents. She had her permits. She had explained her condition multiple times, and this officer was threatening to arrest her because she couldn't do something her body wouldn't allow. "Please, I am begging you. I cannot walk. I am paralyzed. Call for a supervisor. Call for medical assistance. I will cooperate in any way I can, but I cannot step out without my wheelchair." Brooks had made up his mind. He reached for the door handle. Sharon's voice went higher. "Please don't do this. You're going to hurt me." Brooks opened the driver's door. He grabbed Sharon by the upper arm. She screamed. "I cannot walk. I am paralyzed. You are hurting me." Brooks pulled. Sharon's body came out of the seat. Her legs didn't follow. They hung limp. Brooks dragged her halfway out of the van. Then he let go. Sharon's body dropped. She hit the pavement hard. Her shoulder dislocated on impact. Her skin tore on the rough asphalt. She was screaming, crying, begging him to stop. Brooks stood over her. "Stop faking. Stand up right now." Sharon was on the ground. Her legs were twisted beneath her. She couldn't move them. She couldn't stand. She couldn't do what Brooks was demanding because it was physically impossible, and Brooks still didn't believe her. If you're watching this and you think something should have been done differently, hit that subscribe button. We cover stories like this every week. That's when the witnesses stopped. The first car pulled over about 30 seconds after Sharon hit the ground. The driver, a man in his 50s, got out. He had seen the whole thing. He started recording on his phone. Another car stopped, then another. Within 2 minutes, there were 5 vehicles parked along the street. People were getting out. They were shouting at Brooks. "She's disabled. Can't you see that? Leave her alone. Someone call an ambulance." Brooks turned toward the crowd. He told them to back up. He said they were interfering with police business. One of the witnesses, a woman in scrubs, ran forward. She identified herself as a nurse. She knelt down next to Sharon. She looked at Sharon's legs. She checked her pulse. She looked up at Brooks. "Officer, this woman is clearly paralyzed. She needs medical attention right now. She's injured." Brooks shook his head. She's faking. I've seen this before. The nurse stared at him. No, she's not. I'm a medical professional. Look at her legs. She has no motor control. This is real. Brooks ordered the nurse to step back. He said if she didn't move, he would arrest her too. The nurse didn't move. She stayed with Sharon. She talked to her quietly. She told her help was coming. Another witness was already on the phone with emergency services. Someone else was recording. Brooks was surrounded by cameras. His body cam was running. Witness phones were rolling. Everything was being documented. Sharon was still on the ground. She was sobbing. Her shoulder was visibly out of place. Blood was seeping through her shirt from the road rash on her arm and side. She kept repeating the same words. I told you I couldn't walk. Brooks stood there. He didn't apologize. He didn't call for medical help. He just waited. And then the backup arrived. 2 patrol cars pulled up, then an ambulance. A sergeant stepped out. He walked over to Brooks. He asked what happened. Brooks started to explain. The sergeant held up a hand. He looked at Sharon on the ground. He looked at the crowd of witnesses. He looked at the nurse still kneeling beside her. Then he asked Brooks a simple question. Is your body cam on? Brooks nodded. The sergeant told him to wait by his patrol car. Then the sergeant walked over to Brooks' vehicle. He accessed the body cam footage. He watched it on the in-car screen. His expression changed. He watched Sharon explain her condition. He watched Brooks dismiss the medical bracelet. He watched Brooks drag her out of the van. He watched her hit the pavement. When the footage ended, the sergeant walked back to Brooks. He didn't raise his voice. He just said 3 words. You're suspended. Leave. The paramedics moved quickly. They approached Sharon with care. One of them knelt beside her. He introduced himself. He asked where she was hurt. Sharon told him about her shoulder, about the pain in her side, about the fact that she couldn't feel her legs, but that was normal for her. The paramedic nodded. He didn't question her. He didn't accuse her of faking. He treated her like a patient, like someone who needed help. They checked her vitals. They immobilized her shoulder. They carefully moved her onto a backboard. They lifted her into the ambulance. The whole time, they spoke to her with respect. They explained what they were doing. They asked permission before touching her. It was the opposite of how Brooks had treated her, and the witnesses noticed. The sergeant stayed on scene. He spoke to the nurse. He spoke to the other witnesses. He took statements. He collected contact information. He made sure someone grabbed Sharon's purse and phone from the van. He arranged for the van to be towed to a secure lot so Sharon could retrieve it later. He did everything Brooks should have done from the start. Then he called his supervisor. He explained the situation. He said they had a problem, a big one. The ambulance took Sharon to the hospital. Doctors confirmed the dislocated shoulder. They treated the road rash. They documented bruising on her arm and ribs from where Brooks had grabbed and dragged her. They reviewed her medical history. It was all there. 5 years of records, neurologist reports, physical therapy notes, state disability certification, MRI scans showing the spinal damage. There was no question, no gray area. Sharon Davis had been telling the truth from the very first moment, and Officer Brooks had ignored all of it. Back at the police station, Brooks sat in an interview room. His sergeant walked in with a folder. Inside was a printout of Brooks' body cam footage, frame by frame. The sergeant didn't yell. He just asked Brooks to explain his actions. Brooks tried. He said he thought Sharon was faking. He said people abused the system. He said she looked fine. The sergeant stopped him. She showed you a medical bracelet. She showed you a state-issued permit. She told you multiple times she was paralyzed. A nurse confirmed it on scene. What part of that seemed fake to you? Brooks didn't have an answer. The sergeant closed the folder. You're on administrative leave pending investigation. Turn in your badge and weapon. Go home. Brooks left the station that night without his gun, without his badge, and without any idea how much worse it was about to get. The body cam footage was released within days. The department didn't have a choice. Too many witnesses had recorded the incident. Too many people were asking questions. The department released the footage to get ahead of the story. It didn't work. The video spread fast. Local news picked it up first, then regional outlets, then national networks. Within 24 hours, the body cam footage had been viewed millions of times. The witness videos added context, different angles. Audio of Sharon begging. audio of the nurse trying to intervene, audio of Brooks refusing to listen. People were angry, disability rights groups called for immediate action, civil rights organizations issued statements, advocates pointed out that this wasn't just excessive force, it was a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, it was discrimination, it was assault, and it was all on camera. The Phoenix Police Department issued a statement. They said they took the matter seriously. They said Brooks had been suspended. They said an investigation was underway. It wasn't enough. The public wanted more. Sharon's medical records were verified by investigators. They pulled everything: hospital records from the original accident, surgical reports, neurologist evaluations, physical therapy assessments, disability board certification. Every single document confirmed the same thing. Sharon Davis had been paralyzed for 5 years, complete loss of motor function below the waist. No sensation, no movement, no ability to walk. It had never been in question, not by any doctor, not by any therapist, not by any state official. The only person who doubted her condition was Officer Brooks, and he had no medical training, no expertise, no reason to override the evidence in front of him. He just didn't believe her, and that decision was about to cost him everything. If you think officers need better disability training, hit that subscribe button. We're covering these accountability stories every single week. Sharon hired a legal team. They filed a federal lawsuit. The charges were extensive: excessive force, violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, assault, battery, infliction of emotional distress, violation of civil rights. The lawsuit named Officer Brooks. It also named the Phoenix Police Department. Sharon's lawyers argued that the department had failed to train Brooks properly. They argued that the department had ignored prior complaints. They argued that this was a pattern, not an isolated incident. The case went to trial. The body cam footage was played in the courtroom. Jurors watched Sharon explain her condition. They watched Brooks dismiss her medical bracelet. They watched him drag her from the van. They watched her collapse. Some jurors looked away, others took notes, but all of them saw what happened, and it was impossible to deny. Sharon's medical team testified. Her neurologist explained her spinal injury. Her physical therapist described her treatment. A disability rights expert explained the legal protections Sharon was entitled to under the ADA. All of them said the same thing: Sharon's condition was real, it was documented, and Brooks had no reason to doubt it. Then the department's training records were introduced. Brooks had attended a short seminar on disability awareness years earlier. That was it. No follow-up training, no refresher courses, no protocol review. The department had failed to prepare him for situations like this, and Sharon had paid the price. Brooks' disciplinary record was revealed: 2 prior complaints for excessive force. One involved a suspect who said Brooks used unnecessary aggression during an arrest. The other involved a driver who said Brooks escalated a traffic stop. Both complaints had been filed, both had been reviewed, but neither had been fully investigated. No discipline was issued, no corrective action was taken. The defense tried to argue that Brooks acted in good faith, that he believed Sharon was being uncooperative, that he followed his training. The jury didn't buy it. The verdict came back. The jury found in favor of Sharon on every count. The damages were staggering: $22.5 million. It was one of the largest settlements for a disability rights violation in state history. The courtroom went silent when the number was read. Sharon cried, not from relief, from exhaustion, from years of pain, from the weight of everything she had gone through just to be believed. But the legal consequences didn't stop there. Criminal charges were filed against Brooks: assault, battery. He was tried in criminal court. The same footage was played again. The same witnesses testified. The jury convicted him. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison. Brooks lost his job. He lost his peace officer certification. He lost his freedom, and he would never work in law enforcement again. Do you think the punishment fit the crime? Let us know in the comments below. Sharon gave a statement after the verdict. She stood at a podium outside the courthouse. Her lawyer stood beside her. Cameras lined the steps. Reporters held microphones. Sharon took a breath, then she spoke. "I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want to be here. All I wanted was to drive home from the grocery store. I followed the law. I had my documentation. I told the officer the truth. And he didn't believe me, he hurt me, he humiliated me, and he made me feel like my disability was a lie. That's something I'll carry for the rest of my life." She paused, she looked at the cameras. "But I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this for every disabled person who has been doubted, every person who has been told they don't look disabled enough, every person who has been accused of faking. We deserve to be believed. We deserve to be treated with dignity. And officers need to be trained to recognize that disabilities come in many forms. What happened to me should never happen to anyone else." Sharon used part of the settlement to start a non-profit. The organization focuses on law enforcement training. They teach officers how to recognize disabilities, how to communicate with disabled individuals, how to accommodate their needs during traffic stops and arrests. The program has been adopted by departments across the country. The body cam footage from Sharon's case is now used in police academies. It's shown as an example of what not to do, of what happens when officers ignore the evidence, of what happens when assumptions replace facts. Sharon also speaks publicly. She visits police departments. She visits community centers. She shares her story, not for sympathy, but for change. She wants officers to understand that when someone says they're disabled, they should be believed, that medical documentation matters, that a person's word matters, and that the consequences of getting it wrong can destroy lives. This case exposed something bigger than one officer's mistake. It exposed a system that wasn't prepared. The Phoenix Police Department had minimal disability awareness training. Brooks attended a short seminar years before the incident. That was it. No follow-up, no reinforcement, no clear protocols for interacting with disabled individuals during stops. And when complaints were filed against Brooks for prior incidents, they weren't properly investigated. The warning signs were there. The department missed them. After the verdict, the department was forced to overhaul its training program. New policies were put in place. Officers are now required to complete disability awareness training every year. They learn about different types of disabilities. They learn how to verify medical conditions. They learn when to call for medical assistance. And they learn that a person's statement about their own body should be taken seriously. The training includes real case studies. Sharon's case is one of them. But Phoenix wasn't the only department to make changes. The case caught national attention. Disability rights organizations used it as a rallying point. They pushed for policy reforms in other states. Some states passed new laws that require officers to accommodate disabilities during stops, laws that mandate training, laws that create accountability when officers violate those standards. Sharon's case became a reference point, a reminder of what happens when the system fails. The broader lesson is this: disabilities don't always look the way people expect. Some are visible, some are not. Some people use wheelchairs, some don't. Some conditions are immediately obvious. Some require explanation. And when someone explains their condition, especially when they provide documentation, that information should be respected. Officers are not doctors. They are not trained to diagnose medical conditions, and they should not be making judgment calls that override medical evidence. Body cameras played a crucial role in this case. Without that footage, Sharon's account might have been questioned. Brooks might have told a different story. The witnesses might not have been enough. But the camera captured everything. It protected Sharon, and it held Brooks accountable. That's the point of body cameras. They create a record, they provide transparency, and they make it harder for bad actors to hide. So let me ask you, should officers be required to verify disability claims before demanding someone exit a vehicle? Should prior complaints have been investigated more seriously? Should Brooks have faced even harsher consequences? Because if we don't demand better training, better accountability, and better oversight, then we're waiting for the next Brooks, the next Sharon, and the next preventable tragedy. Comment below if you believe disability training should be mandatory for all officers. If stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep exposing these stories. We're going to keep demanding better. This isn't just about one officer or one victim. It's about all of us. See you in the next one.